All right, we are here. Give some people time to join here. Let me get all set up so I can answer comments and questions. And while I'm doing that, I will just fill you guys in here. If this is your first time on a live broadcast, or if you're watching this after the fact, I pretty much go live every Thursday evening, most Thursday evenings. Sometimes life gets in the way, I can't do it. But pretty much every Thursday evening of the video. So let's see. Is this it? This is it right here. Give me a second here. I'll get all set up and we'll get going on that. All right, where's my chat? Sorry. There we go. That's what I was looking for. You guys are probably looking at me wondering what I'm doing here. I'm trying to get the chat all set up so I can see what's happening, and it was hidden back behind the cameras and all that. All right, how are we doing tonight? We got Walter Camp in here, Aviario, Outdoor Adventures with Daniel, Harshman Hills, Francis Rossoni. Hopefully I can just call you Francine, not Francis. Jesse Jackson, Ruthie Sandberg, and Luke Garner so far. Hello to you guys. Glad you can make it. Thank you for joining me. I hear my dog outside. The door's closed. I think he hears us talking, or hears me talking, and he's wanting to come in. Doug Elgin. Hey there. Do I know you, Doug? Do I know you personally? Because you know me, CDC, huh? That's my initials. That's what I go by quite a bit. Doug Elgin. I don't know if I know that name or not. Maybe we're personal friends. I go by CDC a lot. Those are my initials. Christopher Douglas Carnes. I was almost Leonard Douglas Carnes the fourth, but then my parents decided on Christopher instead. And that's how I got the initial CDC, which is the same thing they use for the Center for Disease Control. So, funny. Anyway. Doug, yeah, well, your full name is Douglas. My dad's name was Leonard Douglas Carnes the third, and he went by Doug. So he didn't even like the name. All right. Smash the like button, everybody, huh? Archman Hills, thank you very much. Hello, Luke. Quit spamming. We all see you. All right. So, hopefully everybody's having a good week. It's been just a crazy busy couple of weeks here for me. Was in the Dominican Republic for work a couple of weeks ago, came back. My wife had surgery last Monday, so I had all last week off work, but it was mostly, helping her kind of in her recovery. She's doing pretty good. She's doing fine. Pretty tired, but not in a lot of pain or anything like that. So, praise God for that. Thank you guys for your prayers. She seems to be recovering very, very well. And now we're hopefully back into the swing of things. All right, we got a question here from Francine. It says, Chris, how long does it take for the Texas A&M to hatch? Okay, Texas A&M are Coturnix quail. So Coturnix, I never know if I'm pronouncing that right. Coturnix, I'm going to call them Coturnix. Anyway, Coturnix quail take about 17 days to hatch on average. Sometimes you'll get them hatch a little bit early, sometimes a little bit later than that, but right around 17 days. So they're pretty much they're the same as any other kind of quail, any other kind of Coturnix. So hopefully that answers that question for you. All right, Ruthie says, my parents wouldn't let me get quails, so they're letting me get a parakeet. They wouldn't let you get quail, really? Interesting, but they let you have a parakeet. Parakeet's going to be way noisier than the quail is my bet. But hey, who cares? I don't know if, let's see, I had a parakeet at one time. Never got it to lay eggs. I was going to say, I'm not sure if parakeet eggs would taste the same as quail eggs. I don't know, honestly. But hey, a parakeet, if that's what you're looking for, great. Hope it does well. So thank you, Luke. I appreciate that. Yes, my wife is feeling pretty good, actually. She just gets worn out pretty easily, so that's really about all right now. First couple days, a little sore, a little rough. Had to spend overnight in the hospital. Came home late the next evening, but she's doing pretty well. All right, back to the questions here. Hello, Boris. Hello to you. Aviario says, Chris, I received some quail eggs today from Kansas City Quail. Should I rest the eggs a few hours before putting them in the incubator? Yeah, that's a good plan, Aviario. What I do is I let them rest for about 12 hours, so usually overnight, and then start them in the incubator the next day. That's how I handle them, and it is best to do that. Let them kind of acclimate to room temperature, settle down a little bit, and then go ahead and incubate them at that point. Lulu, the silky chicken, hello to you. Gustavo Lopez says, I put Bob White eggs in the incubator today. Do you know how many days for lockdown, please? Okay, let's see. Bob Whites are, I can't remember, but hang on. I've got notes here somewhere. I can look it up for you and tell you what it is. Let's let's see real quick. What do I have? If I can find my notes, probably be easier to look it up. What is the lockdown? Looks like 21 days, I think, is the average for bobwhite quail. So that would put them on lockdown around day 17, day 18, probably about day 18. You'd put them into lockdown, and then about 21 days, you should expect them to start hatching. Hopefully that answers that question for you. All right, Doug says, I messed up my home PC, which has my full name. I have Hollands, Mini Rex, and Netherlands, and 22 babies right now, and 3 more due this week. And my goodness, that's a lot. You must not live anywhere near Southwest Missouri because it is just way too hot out there. We had 100 degrees today. I think it's the hottest day we've had so far this year. But it's been like 95, 97, 98 for, the last several weeks. Way too hot out there to be breeding rabbits. For me, anyway. I don't have a climate-controlled area. I just let them rest in the heat of the summer. All right, Chloe says, hi, Chris. My rabbit had her babies 2 days ago. She had 9. Well, congratulations on your kindling. That's a pretty good number. 9's a pretty good, about right. Too many more than that, and you stand to lose a few because I can't feed them all. And, of course, too many less than that, it just doesn't make it too much worth it. But 9, about the perfect size litter, in my opinion. So congratulations on that. I'm glad to hear it. Tyler, how are you? Good evening to you. Lulu says, it's not been a good week. My silver fox rabbit had 10 kits, and I lost all of them yesterday due to the heat. Man, I'm sorry to hear that, Lulu. Hang in there, though. It will get better. I don't know what kind of nest box you're using, but if you're not already, you might switch to an all-wire nest box for the summer at least. I use it all year round, but in the summertime, the all-wire allows a lot more ventilation in, so it can be a lot cooler, and that might help if you're going to breed in the summertime. So that's just a thought. Excuse me. All right. Ruthie says, they wouldn't have survived the bad winters we get in Minnesota, and my mom wouldn't allow them to be inside the house. Honestly, Ruthie, I think the quail could survive the winters out there. They do just fine in winter around here, and it doesn't get quite as cold here as it does there, I'm sure, but we get well down below 0 in the wintertime, and they do just fine outside all winter long. The biggest pain is you got to take water out to them because water freezes, of course, but they do just fine out in the wintertime. Just give them a wind block, somewhere to get out of the wind, and I wouldn't worry about them too much. I think they do just fine. But hey, do what you can do. If you want a parakeet instead of quail, if that's what your mom would allow you to have, do it. You can do quail at any time. It's not like you have to do it right now. And it may be a good idea to get some experience raising a bird, getting familiar with birds a little bit before you invest a lot into getting some quail or something like that. So no problem. Luke Garner says, you are so cool. Well, thank you very much, Luke. I'm glad you think so. I appreciate that. Lulu the Silky says her first kits, so I was happy she had so many, so I'm going to try breeding in September. Yeah, that's probably a good plan, Lulu. I usually wait till October, but I don't know what part of the country you're in. October 15th is our average first frost date, so late September to October, depending on the weather, but it's usually pretty hot all the way up till October. So that's about the time I generally pick my breeding back up. All right, where are we at here? I lost track of where we're going. Northwest. Okay, Doug's in northwestern Illinois. Well, it's probably pretty hot there too, isn't it? I'm guessing. Anyway, Edward says, hey, I found the perfect sand pit for my quail. It's a plastic 2-gallon keg dispenser with a 4-inch screw on top. Turned on side, made a hole on the side of the cage. They can't lose the sand. Okay, interesting. A 2-gallon keg dispenser. You turned it on its side, made a hole on side of cage. Okay, so interesting. Yeah, if you're in the Facebook group, post a picture of that. I'd like to see it. I did get the new hutch built. I'll have a video out Monday on me building that. And I did put a solid bottom in it with a 2x4 on one side on its end. So far, that's keeping the sand in there. So I think that's going to be a new, my new design. We're going on a little over a week and a half, and the sand's not really all that dirty. I plan on just kind of, scooping it out like you would like a litter box, if it gets too dirty. So far it's not too bad, and they haven't lost too much sand, so I'm liking that. We'll see how it goes in the long run, but interesting what you're saying there. I'd like to see pictures of that and see how that works. All right. Oh, look at that. Outdoor Adventure says, are you doing a video about building a quail hutch anytime soon? Yep. Monday night, you should have that out. I tried to get it out Tuesday. You know, I just couldn't. I just couldn't get to it. I got so much going on right now. Back to work after a week off and a week in Dominican Republic, working from there, and just life got in the way. So I couldn't get it done, get it out Tuesday night, but I should have it out Monday night, no problem. Also have a video coming out probably Tuesday night on building the automatic watering system I use for my quail. I realized I haven't done a video on that. I did one on building one for the rabbits. It's very, very similar, but I made some improvements to it, I think, since then. So this is a little bit more concise video, and hopefully you guys will like that too. All right, where are we at here? Riley, is it Riley? Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. Says, I got a girl rabbit about 7 months ago, and she had 9 babies. They are passed away. She wasn't taking care of them. She is a first-time mom. Should I let her have more babies, or is she just too young? So you got her about 7 months ago. 7 months, if you got her 7 months ago, then she's older than 7 months. That's probably about the right age. I would give her another shot. If if this was recent and you're anywhere in, like, where it's summertime right now and it's hot as can be out there, it could have been the heat that caused it. It may not have been that she wasn't taking care of them. It may have just been too hot out for them. So yeah, I'd give her another shot. I usually give my rabbits at least 3 tries. Well, I shouldn't say at least. I usually give them 3 tries before I count them out. All right, where are we at here? Luke says, my cat had a litter. Well, hey, congratulations for your cat having a litter. That sounds horrible to me. No, I'm kidding. I like cats a lot. I don't like them living in my house, and I don't like them just roaming the neighborhood. We have too many stray cats around here. They like to use my garden as a litter box. They just kill everything. It'd be different if it lived out in the country and could have like 2 cats out, that stay outside. That'd be the perfect amount, I think. But in town, I don't like having a cat in my house. That's just me. I'm more of a dog person, but I do like cats. I don't dislike them, but that's just my opinion on them. But hey, Tom, how are you? Good to see you. Lulu says it's built on nest box to a hutch. I'm going to try putting 2 holes in the top side of the next box for air. So it's closed in on the top. That's what you're saying, Lulu? If that's the case, I would definitely take that top off, cover it with some cage wire if you have to, so they can't get out. But you definitely need to open it up. Closing it in is going to cause too much moisture to be trapped in there, and moisture, especially moisture along with heat, is a bad combination. So yeah, I would definitely open that up and take that top completely off, cover it with cage wire if you need to. That'll give them more ventilation. That should help out quite a bit. All right, Allison says, I just bred all 5 of my female rabbits. 4 of them will be first-time moms, hoping to have some good litters. I will be very busy in August. Boy, it sounds like it. You just bred all 5 of them. Hopefully they took. Allison, I don't know, where you're at, but around here with it being upper 90s, I would be leery that my buck might be sterile and just might not be able to produce babies, if I were to breed them right now. But you never know. That's not a guarantee that they go sterile. It's just a possibility that they go sterile. And it's a temporary thing if they do. So it's not anything to really worry about. All right, Will Brady says, I have 3 Coturnix quail hens that are 13 weeks old and not laying. They're in the same area and eating the same thing as my older hens that are laying. What do you think the problem is? Interesting, Will. If there other birds are laying, but these aren't, it could be any number of things. Especially if you just recently moved them in, or just recently moved them, that most of the time that will cause a quail to stop laying. So I don't know if these are your birds, you've had them all along. If you got them from somebody else, they may have been laying before and then stopped laying because of the move and the new surroundings. If that's the case, just leave them alone for a couple of weeks. Usually about 2 weeks, they start laying again, no problem. As long as they got plenty of light, that's the number one factor with birds not laying, is they got to have about 14 hours a day of light. But if your other birds are laying, that's my guess, is that they do have enough light. And it just may be that, like I said, the stress factor of these guys moving, or if you put them in with new birds or any of those kinds of things, that can hinder them from laying eggs. But they'll get over it. They'll start laying again here soon. Hopefully that helps. All right, so Rebecca, how are you? Good to see you. Patrick Joseph Gray says, hello from Ireland. Patrick Joseph Gray, that's a great Irish name. Says, hello from Ireland, Chris. My quail are doing really well, thanks to you and your YouTube videos. Well, thank you so much for the kind comments. I appreciate that. I'm glad that that my videos are helping you out. I'm glad that you're getting some success from that. Ireland's a place I've always wanted to visit. I'm I'm Irish, I guess, by blood. Carnes is an Irish name. And my grandmother's maiden name, or my mom's maiden name, my grandmother's name on her side, grandfather's name, I guess it is Ardrey. So both Irish from both sides of the family. And I'd always like to visit Ireland, so maybe someday I'll make it over there. All right, Eviario says, how is your garden doing so far? You know, it's been a rough year on my garden, actually. It's been so hot and so dry. I think that's probably a big part of it. But I think, I mentioned this last week, I think the biggest thing is I committed to doing the Seed to Harvest series this year. And I haven't done a garden video in a couple of weeks, probably because there's just not much to film. I mean, right now it's just letting everything grow. There's not much to do. But I'll pick it back up and I'll show you guys the garden, how it's doing. It's not doing great. It's doing okay, but not great. I had a hard time. I've never had such a hard time getting seeds to start for some reason. Okra, planted 2 or 3 times in the garden, and I just couldn't get that stuff to sprout. It just, I mean, I got like a couple of plants going. That was it. I had to replant cucumber a couple of times because the slugs ate them down. I mean, they sprouted and got that big, and slugs came in and just ate them down. I got the slugs under control now, and I do have some cucumbers going. Not nearly as many as what I had initially thought. Cantaloupe's doing pretty good. It's putting on fruit, some watermelon. The tomatoes have green tomatoes on them. The plants don't look that, I mean, they don't look bad, but they don't look that great. They're not as just robust as they usually are. The fruit looks pretty good so far, but none of it's ripe. Let's see, what spinach is all bolted. It's like 6 feet high and flowered out, but I don't have anything else to put in that bed, so I figure why pull it out, just leave it there, keep the weeds down. What else do I got going? Zucchini's doing pretty good. It's putting them on, but they're not, I don't have anything, for some reason they're not growing. I got little bitty tiny fruit, and then they just kind of, the fruit just kind of dies off. So, all right, excuse me. So anyway, that's kind of how the garden's doing. Not that great. Boris says, Illinois, it's never hot, windy, or freezing cold. Well, I guess, I don't know if I'd trade that. I kind of like, I don't mind summertime so much. Everybody else around here complains about it, but I don't mind it at all. I kind of like, that's one of the things I really like about living in Southwest Missouri in the Ozarks, is we get all 4 seasons. So we get a cold winter. I mean, it gets cold. It gets down below 0. We get spring. We get summer, and it gets hot in the summertime. You want to go spend the time in the creeks, go swimming, fishing, all those kinds of good things. And then we get fall, and fall is just beautiful and nice and cool and, you know, not hot. And then it goes into winter again. I like having that change, because about the time I'm done, you know, about the time summer's starting to wrap up, I'm ready for a break. It's been hot for a long time, hot and humid. I'm ready for a break. And then fall comes along, and then wintertime, get to go out and do all the hunting and all those things you do in wintertime. And then by the time wintertime's over, I'm done with the cold. I'm ready to go back to summer, where it's easy to take care of the animals, and, you know, the water doesn't freeze and all those kinds of things. So anyway, that's what I really like about, one of the things I like about it. All right, Outdoor Adventures with Daniel says, well, I have a good hatch rates without a fan in my incubator. Yeah, you can definitely have a good hatch rate without a fan. Plenty of people use still air incubators. You might want to bump the temperature up just about a degree. Usually what they say is right about 99.5 for a forced air and about 100.5 for a still air incubator. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much. You're probably going to have just fine hatch rate. If you're worried about it, you can add a fan to it pretty easily, but I think you're going to do just fine. All right, the Bluesman says, depends on what you're hatching at Outdoor Adventure. Okay, he's answering your question. You can always hook a computer fan to it. Yep, that was going to be my suggestion too, Bluesman. Great minds think alike, right? So, hey, Armed Americans here. You could go ahead and breed some meat cats. Breed some meat cats, huh? That's a horrible idea. So, hey, Aviario, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you guys all for just joining the videos, and when you do send the super chats, I really do appreciate those. I don't feel like you have to. I'm not pressuring you to do it. I don't think less of you if you don't do it, but I do appreciate it. Thank you so much for that. All right, yeah, meat cats, huh? I've never eaten cat. I'm sure it would be good. I had somebody one time on one of my videos, I can't remember which one, it was probably how to butcher a rabbit or something like that, said that you should always keep the kidneys, I think he said, when you butcher a rabbit so that you can distinguish it from cats. And I was like, well, it's pretty easy to do in my freezer since there are no cats in my freezer. I don't have a problem knowing which ones are the rabbits, but I thought that was kind of funny. All right, All right, Luke says they keep peeing in my bedroom and I'm lost. Oh, you're talking about your cats. Okay. I'm sorry. Forgot what we were talking about earlier, Luke. Yeah, that's why I don't like cats in my house. That's the biggest reason right there. All right, Joan Smith says, my work can do good in summer, good dry heat, 105, and they're in shade, doing good, and they're on chicken egg lane with cat food. It good. Okay. I'm lost, Joanne. What can do? I think you're saying your quail do well in the summertime. It's a dry heat of 105 degrees. They're in the shade. You're feeding them chicken egg layer with some cat food. Yeah, well, I've heard of people supplementing their feed with cat food to get the protein levels up a little bit. Heard it works out well. But yeah, 105 and dry heat, that's way different. It's like 100 degrees here, but it's high humidity. So it's, if you're in the dry heat, you could use like swamp coolers and things, and man, that'd be nice in a way. But anyway. All right, Tom Wolf says, just got 2 silver fox, 4 months old. First time I went to to pet the female, she reared up and bit me. Is this just her not being used to me yet? I think she will grow out of it. Tom, I sure hope so. I had oh, hey, Hidden Buddies, I see you there. Good to see you. Tom, I had a New Zealand red that was just aggressive as could be. She never did calm down. She's in the freezer right now. I'm going to make sausage out of her, and I'll show a video on that whenever I do it. But yeah, a lot of times it can be that. It can't just be getting used to you. You might wear some thick, leather gloves or something like that when you go to handle her. Try bringing her some treats whenever you go to address it. Go to talk to her or whatever. Talk to her a little bit, let her know you're coming, feed her a treat, and then pet her a little bit. Maybe she'll start associating that, with positive things and calm down. Hopefully, I've had rabbits that are somewhat aggressive and then they tend to calm down. But this New Zealand red I had, boy, she just got worse and worse the longer it went. She never did calm down. And eventually I just got sick of it and said, I'm not dealing with it. Can't handle her. She wasn't that good of a rabbit. So I went ahead and somebody just commented on one of my videos. It pops up on my phone whenever I do that poor rabbit. I'm not sure which one they were talking about, but probably the rabbit foot's keychain or something. People always think I did a video on how to make a rabbit's foot keychain, and people are always commenting on there that they think I just killed the rabbit just for the foot so I could make a keychain out of it. I always have to explain that. No, I didn't. But anyway, sorry, I got distracted there. All right, can you feed quail veggies like chicken, or do they eat seeds and bugs? Yeah, actually, kinfolk, they're pretty similar to chicken diets. So yeah, pretty much any vegetable I think that you feed with chicken, you can feed to quail. They will eat bugs. They'll eat a lot of pretty much the same things that chickens will. Very similar diets. They have a slightly higher protein requirement, not as high of a calcium requirement as chickens do. But other than that, it's very, very similar. All right. Doug Geergen says, "Hey Chris, one of my female quails lays some celadon speckled eggs and some cream speckled eggs. One of the females lays brown and cream eggs, but celadon only on the inside of the shell." On the inside of the shell, huh? Interesting. I don't know if I don't even pay that much attention to the inside of the shell, but I don't know if I've ever seen the inside of a shell that was blue, but the outside wasn't. Interesting. I don't know what causes that. It's probably just genetics of the birds, and I don't know. Hard for me to say. I'm not a genetics expert, so hard for me to be able to answer that question for you. I'm sorry, Doug. I do know that celadon is a recessive trait. If your birds lay celadon eggs, true celadon eggs are just blue. They're all blue. Then they will always lay celadon eggs. It's not like they lay them sometimes or another. They'll always lay them. But some of the other other than that, the colors really vary quite a bit on most of the birds whenever they lay. So, and Hidden Bunnies, I missed your comment there. It says you have learned to speak really good English. Ever since you've been in here, I've always thought your English was pretty good. I didn't even know you weren't a native English speaker for the longest time. I'm still working on learning some Spanish, but boy, it's going slow. I'm not making much progress on it. I don't have anybody around here to practice on, so I get to practice it whenever I go over to the Dominican Republic for work. Get to talk a little bit of Spanish there, but I'm just not that great at it yet. All right. Adrienne says, Chris, at what age do quail egg production decrease for Coturnix? Good question. Usually right around 2 years, you can expect them to start really dropping off at that point. Most of the time I find that their best egg production's from up to about a year and a half, a little over a year and a half. I usually try to replace them at least once every 2 years. That's my plan anyway. Hopefully that answers that question for you. All right, bird lover. Hey, how are you? Hidden Bunny says, oh, she's got a joke for us. Hidden Bunnies, I think you are a she, aren't you? Hopefully, I'm not calling you she if you're he or either way. Says, okay, here's a joke. Money can't buy happiness, but it can buy cows, which is pretty much the same thing. I've heard that before. That is cute. All right. Armed American baby back kitten riblets, huh? I don't think there's much meat on a cat rib, but I may be wrong. Eric just hatched a bobwhite quail. Well, congratulations on your hatch, Eric. Mike Priest says, hi, Chris. I lost, three litters of kits doing great. Thanks for the advice. Fantastic. I'm glad to hear that they're doing well. Congratulations on those. Outdoor Adventures says, hey, Chris, where do you think I can get Celadon quails? Kansas City Quail Farm has them. You can order from them. The Celadon quails, they have them in a lot of different color strains. I like the Pharaohs, the Jumbo Pharaohs to me. But yeah, you can get Celadon eggs from them. All right, Aviario. Boy, I have a hard time with your name for some reason. It says, Chris, how many chances do you give a doe that is giving you small litters before sending her to freezer camp? It depends on a couple of things. Let me grab a drink here and I'll tell you. And it's Pepsi tonight because, it was on sale. All right, where are we at? How many times do I give? Okay, she has small litters. How many chances do I give her? It depends. And now, if you've got multiple rabbits and you're breeding the same buck to multiple rabbits and the other rabbits don't have problems with that, then you pretty much narrow down. It's the doe. But if you've had big litters out of this doe before, and then she suddenly starts throwing small litters and nothing else has changed, it very well could be your buck rabbit that is causing those problems, especially if it's summertime. And he's struggling with, going sterile or not being as fertile as he normally would be because of the heat. It just varies. Generally speaking, though, if I can narrow it down to it is the doe that's doing that, I'm 90% confident, then I give him about 3 tries. Hopefully that kind of answers it. I know it's not a dead set, hardcore answer, but hopefully that gives you enough information to kind of go with. Doug says, thanks, Chris. I must have some mutants, LOL. Yeah, maybe so. Hopefully not. I don't know. Tom Wolf says, I got 5-week-old quail that crow like crazy. Is that normal? Oh, yeah, that's absolutely normal, Tom. In fact, when the males first start crowing, right about 5 weeks to 6 weeks old most of the time, boy, it's like they just discovered their voice. They didn't know it was there, and they want to use it. And, boy, they just go nuts. Just crow nonstop. The ones I've got out in the grow-up pen right now are just starting to crow. And, you hear them, just all night long, all day. They crow like crazy. It will calm down. Give them a couple of weeks, and they'll calm down. It's very, very normal. All right. Joanne Smith said, I had blue on the inside of my eggs. Interesting. I don't know that I've ever looked at the inside of the eggs that much, but I don't know. I'll have to look at them now and pay attention. Hidden Bunny says, I am. Oh, you are a girl. That's what you're saying. Okay, you are a she. All right, now I've got somebody speaking in Spanish to me. Oh, you gave me the English translation. I was going to try to translate it. Tu español es muy bueno. Oh, your Spanish is very good. Yeah, got it. Well, thank you, but you haven't heard me speak in Spanish, really. I'll tell you guys a funny story real quick. We don't have too many chats here. Hey, I got somebody from Powell, Missouri. I know where that is. I just saw that. Samuel Beasley from Powell, Missouri. Had a hen a little rubber-legged and disoriented, separated her, and she as well. Any thoughts on integrating her back in with the rest? Yeah. Let me answer these questions, then I'll tell you guys the funny stories. Yeah, Samuel. Tim, I see your question there. Give me a second, I'll get to it. I just caught Powell, Missouri down there, and I knew that name or knew that place, so it caught my eye. So, all right, Samuel. Yeah, there's a couple of things that you can do. I don't know how long she's been separated from them. But you might try to pull a couple more birds out. Like if you've got, let's say, make the math easy. Say you've got 10 birds in there. You might pull 2 more out, put them in with her, give them a chance to get acclimated together, and then put all of those back in the cage. And that way there's a mix of new birds, so to speak, with the older birds, and they might get along a little bit better that way. There's a couple things you can do with that. Depending on how old they are, if they're young, if they're not breeding age yet, then you should be able to just move her right in. I find that the aggression really drops down when they're not in breeding mode. So if the light's below 14 hours a day, they're not laying eggs, the roosters aren't crowing, you can move them around, you can mix them together. They don't seem to be too picky about it. It's whenever they go into that breeding cycle, the roosters start crowing, the females start laying eggs, that's when the aggression seems to come on. Another couple of things you might do is if you have the ability to do that, you could put her in a smaller cage inside the cage with the rest of the birds, so it gives them a chance to kind of get used to her without being able to get at her. That would do it. Put her in there at night. What I would probably do is just throw her in there and watch and see what happens. If they really start picking on her, then you might be able to identify that there's one or two birds doing the majority of that. Move them out of the cage for a while, let her get acclimated with the rest of the birds, and then move them back in, and they'll be kind of the outsiders, and it might put them in their place. Hopefully, I know that's kind of back and forth, lots of different ifs, but hopefully that kind of answers that question for you. All right, so Tim says, I'm new to Coturnix quail, and your videos have been very helpful. Well, thank you so much, Tim. I'm so glad that you're finding the videos helpful. If there's certain topics you want to see addressed, come back. Don't do it in the comments section because I lose the comments section. But any of my videos that I post, leave a comment down there. Ask me if I can do a video on it. If I haven't already done one, I'll try to do my best to shoot a video on it. All right, where are we at here? Hidden bunnies. A lot of people think I'm a boy, which doesn't make sense because of my girly name. Armed American, thank you so much for the $10 super chat there. I appreciate it. And your comment, I like baby back ribs. Yeah, I like baby back ribs too, but I'm not sure about kitten ribs. So Hidden Bunnies, you have a girly name. Is Hidden Bunnies the girly name you're talking about? I assumed you were a girl too because of that, but I don't know why. Who knows? All right, Gustavo Lopez says, when you butcher your quails, do you lose any? My baby quails... Oh, when you hatched, okay. That made no sense. I'm like, yeah, when I butcher, I lose them all. No, when you hatch your quails, do you lose any? My baby quails were a week old and 10 died. What do you think the problem is? Yeah, that's odd for quail at 10 days old to die. It's probably a heat-related issue. If you had them in the brooder box and it was too hot or too cold. If they could get into the water and get wet, then they can get chilled and die. That's one of the most common things that happens to them once they're after the first day or two. If the heat lamp is too close to the brooder box and they're all kind of spread out as far away from it as they can get, then it could be that they're overheating and dying that way. Or if it's too far away and they're all crowding up underneath the heat lamp, they can get trampled, or they can chill and die that way too. Those are the most common things that can happen. There's also sometimes depending on what birds you have, like somebody asked about Celadon eggs, and if I remember right, I think the Celadon layers carry what they call the terminal gene, which can lead to just sudden death. It's not a guaranteed thing that they're going to die. It's just they have a higher rate, and they just die for no reason. I mean, you don't know why. They just die, and that can happen at any time. So that could be something genetically too that gets passed on to them. There's a lot of different things. So yeah, Armed American, Swifty's Seafood Shack in Georgetown, South Carolina. If you're in South Carolina, stop by and see them. I think you guys just opened up, didn't you? I believe so. I remember you talking about it last week or the week before, that you just opened up that place. I'll have to check it out if I'm ever in South Carolina. I don't think I've ever been to South Carolina. Maybe I have. I don't remember, honestly. All right, so tell you my funny story real quick about my Spanish speaking. So I'm in the Dominican Republic a few weeks ago with a client, and we decided to go to dinner. We go to dinner right behind, two funny stories actually. We go to dinner right behind the restaurant, or right behind the hotel. You just walk out the door and right behind it, there's an Italian restaurant back there. So we go in there, and of course, the waiter doesn't speak English at all. I speak very little Spanish. I've been studying for a couple of months, but I'm like I said, it's pretty slow going. So we sit down, he comes over, and he doesn't, like, we establish he doesn't speak any English, and I say, habla español, or habla inglés. He says, no. I said, okay, hablo español muy pequeño. He said, okay. I said, el menú, por favor, which I think means the menu, please. And he says, okay. He walks away. He comes back with a bottle of wine. So then I'm like second guessing myself. Maybe I don't know any Spanish whatsoever. So I'm all confused. I'm like, no, menu, el menú. And he looks at me all kind of crazy, and I'm like, I think I'm saying that right. And the client sitting across the table from me, she looks at me, she says, how do you say menu in Spanish? I said, I thought it was menu, you know? So anyway, finally I'm like, look, I'm like playing like I'm reading something. I'm like, comida, you know, food. And he finally gets the menu to us, and it was pretty humorous. He comes back later, he brings bread with, you know, like balsamic vinegar and oil like they do in Italian restaurants, you know? He brings bread over and he sets it down and he looks at me and he says, picante? And I'm like, that because of this conversation we've had where I can't communicate with him at all, I'm second guessing my Spanish. I'm like, okay, picante means spicy, but do I want something spicy with the bread? That doesn't make any sense. So I'm thinking maybe that's not what he's asking me. I'm not sure. Finally, he comes back with a Google Translate, spicy. I'm like, yeah, okay, that means spicy. Yes, I want something spicy, sure. And he brings, it was like a spicy oil. It was like a hot pepper oil of some kind that you know, was meant for the pasta, I think. That's what I used it on anyway. It was good, which is rare because in the Dominican Republic, you know, it's Caribbean, so they just don't eat a lot of spice. You don't find a lot of really spicy, hot food. It's hard to find. So it was weird to me that they just offered that up and they brought it over to them. And it was pretty hot. It was pretty spicy. It was good. So anyway, that was kind of funny. And then I'll tell you one more. I went to a barbecue restaurant, and I was there over the weekend. I was kind of there by myself over the weekend. So I went to a barbecue restaurant, took an Uber there, which Uber in the Dominican Republic is fantastic. It was $1.75 to get to a restaurant that was like 2.5 miles away, you know, 3 miles away, something like that. I don't know what, but it was cheap. It was good. So I go to this restaurant, I sit down, I managed to get my order across to the waiter. He doesn't speak English, but I get my order across to him just fine. And then I'm getting ready to go, and I'm thinking, you know, the hotel's only like 1.5 miles. Something like that, and it's just a straight shot down the road. You just walk down the road, turn, and it's like 4 blocks from there. I mean, it's just right there. It's easy. So I'm thinking maybe I should just walk back to the hotel. It was daylight. It wasn't nighttime or anything like that. They always tell you don't go out walking around by yourself. You know, it's not safe. But you know, I've never had any problems down there. It looks plenty safe. Everybody's been friendly. So I asked the waiter, and I have to think about this for a minute. Okay, how do I say is it safe to walk? And I had to think about it for a minute. I'm like, okay. So I go up to the waiter. And I said, es seguro caminar, I think is to walk. I can't remember now. Caminar a la hotel. And he says, oh yeah, it's plenty safe to walk to the hotel. It's just English, no problem. And it was funny. You had to be there probably. All right, so where are we at here? All right, Aviario says, does the cloudiness on some of the quail eggs mean that they are old? No, not necessarily, Aviario. No, it's just, for whatever reason, most of the time it's probably like extra calcium being deposited on the eggs that cause them to be a little bit cloudy looking like that. I always say they're running out of toner, but it really doesn't mean anything. It's nothing to worry about. All right, and wait, to talk about how you can tell quail eggs are old, if you're going to be eating them, that is, put them in a glass of water or a bowl of water or a sink full of water or whatever. If they float, throw them out. They got too much air in them. They're old. They're no good. Eggs keep for an incredibly long time. Quail eggs, not as long as chicken eggs, but weeks. Weeks easily. Keep for weeks. All right, hopefully that answers that. All right, Mr. Blazhard? Mr. Blazhard, I think is what it says Quail King. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but all right, Armed American says July 2nd was opening day and we've been slammed. Well, hey, I'm glad to hear that your endeavor is taking off. I do like me some seafood, so if I'm ever in the area, I will stop by and try it out and meet you face to face. All right, Doug Yergin, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right again. Have you had a male quail that was disinterested in breeding with females? I have a white that just doesn't want to do anything, or doesn't want anything to do with the female, and I have that hasn't laid eggs yet. Oh, with the female I have that hasn't laid eggs yet. All right, you have a white quail. It doesn't want to have anything to do with the female, and that hasn't laid eggs yet. So the white quail hasn't laid eggs yet. That's why you think it's a rooster, or it's a rooster and the female hasn't laid eggs yet, because they're unrelated things. But what makes me wonder is if your female hasn't laid eggs, the conditions might not be right, which again would go back to light most of the time, 14 hours a day of light. And if the condition, the males only go into breeding whenever there's 14 hours a day of light as well. So they kind of go hand in hand. The conditions that cause the egg laying are the same conditions that put the male into the breeding mode. So hopefully that makes sense, and maybe that answers that question for you. I'm not sure, honestly. All right, Armed American says, Doug, your female may be a male. Yep, I was kind of answering that too. Aviario says, you're correct with the way you said it. Oh, yeah, menu. Yep, I thought so. I know I've got a bad accent, but I thought it was right. Hey there, Catherine. Good to see you. All right, Jay says, what are your thoughts about aquaponic farming? I think aquaponic farming is very, very interesting. I like the idea of it. The reason I don't do it here, the whole idea of aquaponics, if you guys are familiar with aquaponic farming, if you're not familiar with it, let me put it this way. It's basically growing food and fish over you grow the food over a fish tank. And usually they're putting tilapia in there because tilapia will breed in captivity. So you get a fish harvest out of it, you get a food harvest out of it. The water that the fish live in is filtered through the plants, so it fertilizes the plants and causes the plants to grow. Incredibly productive, very, very efficient, work great. The problem I have, the reason I don't do it around here, is I couldn't do tilapia, and I don't really like tilapia anyway. In my opinion, they just don't taste good. They're not a good fish. And there's not very many other fish you can use that you can get to actually breed and produce. And that's kind of one of the big goals of, the whole idea of aquaponics farming. You can do it with goldfish, you can do it with other fish. If you don't plan on eating the fish, that's fine. But anyway, that's one of the big things. So I can't do it with tilapia around here because the winters are too cold. And it would kill them off. Tilapia die when it's under like 70 degrees, and they wouldn't handle it. And I haven't really, there's a little bit of an investment involved with that, but there are some really cool things people are doing with aquaponics farming. I think it's a great idea. I like the idea. Maybe someday I'll venture out and do it. All right, Hidden Bunny says, what should I do if my eggs are always big and always small? How can they be always big and always small? I think what you mean is you have extremes. Great big eggs or little bitty eggs, right? Both. There's not really much you can do, but when your quail first start laying eggs, especially, they're going to lay a lot of those. It's like their starter eggs, and then they'll work it out, and you won't have that problem anymore. It's not really much you can do to fix it. If you have lots of problems with that, check your protein levels and your calcium levels in your feed. Make sure it's at least 20% protein and at least 1.5, preferably more like 2% calcium. Those would be the two things that I would check. Magnesium's a little bit of a requirement there, but it's pretty small, and most of the time that's not going to be a big deal. But anyway, those are the two things I would check if you have continuous problems with them after a few weeks to 3 weeks or so after they first start laying. All right, Samuel Beasy says, my chickens like to hang around the quail hutches. They scratch around the waist and make a mess. Any concerns about avian disease issues? Not with the chickens necessarily. There are some concerns that chickens can pass diseases on to the quail, but how big of an issue that is, how big of a concern it is, I really don't know. I wouldn't worry about it too much myself. I did a video on that a while back. I think it was last year sometime, about keeping chickens and quail together. I don't remember what I called it. But yeah, if you go through the videos, you should be able to find it. It's obvious. There's a thumbnail with chickens on it, and I don't raise chickens, so it's got to be that one. And it talked about the diseases that can be passed and spread both. You should separate them out a little bit, but I don't know that it's a huge concern. I don't know that I'd worry about it too much. All right, grab another drink here. All right, David Bueno, what a great name. I have some quail eggs incubating in the temperature, and the temperature sometimes goes up and down. Will they still hatch? Depends, David, on how much of a swing we're talking about. It's very common for an incubator to, it's going to drop a little bit, rise a little bit as it tries to regulate it, but are we talking like several degrees lower, several degrees higher, or like half a degree lower, half a degree higher? Even if it is a couple of degrees low and a couple of degrees high, there's a good chance they're still going to hatch. It would be better if it was a little bit more stabilized, but it's hard for me to say. You're just going to have to wait and see how they hatch, honestly. All right, Doug says, okay, you're talking back about the white male that's not interested, right? You've insexed both. White is a male, and the other is a snowy white. I live in Georgia, so plenty of light. Just wondering. Well, Doug, I'm not sure what else could be causing that. It's hard for me to say. Those are generally the things. If he's not crowing, she's not laying eggs, it's almost always a light issue that's causing that. if you've been moving them around a lot lately, or you just moved them in there, again, it may be the stress of the move. They get stressed out pretty easily. So if there's some kind of stress factor, a predator coming around, a recent move, any of those kinds of things, that may be what's causing it. Leave them alone for a couple of weeks. Get the predators away if you can. Leave them alone for a couple of weeks, and they will do just fine. All right. Future Army Medic says, "Oh shucks, I'm late." Well, you're a little late, but that's okay. We're still going. We got another about 15 minutes or so. We'll be in here. Where are we at here? How old are the quail? They should be at least 8 weeks. Yeah, Armed American's got a good comment for you, Doug. Make sure the quail are old enough. Of course, if you're event sexing them, they should be old enough. So that's interesting. I don't know. As long as the plants don't have, this is Doug Yergin, as long as the plants don't have a high phosphorus demand, the aquaponics is great. And catfish are fairly cold resistant. Well, that's true, Doug. They are fairly cold resistant, but you can get them to breed in captivity, but it's difficult to get them to breed in captivity, and not in a small scale. They need a bigger area in order, I think, to be comfortable and to breed. So you don't get, you could eat your catfish out of there, but then you'd have to buy more catfish to put in there. So that the whole idea really is kind of to make it self-sustaining in a sense. Yeah, Walter, he's saying the same thing, using catfish. And Hidden Bunny says like both. I'm not sure what you mean there. Amber, hello Amber, how are you? All right, every REO says I received 60 eggs, but only have room for 42. Based on your experience, how do I pick the best ones for incubating? What should I look for to select the best 42? Boy, I'm eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I don't know that there's really anything, float test them. And the ones that don't stand upright or float, if you have 20 of them that stand upright or, don't lay down completely in the water, those might be the ones that I would throw out. I don't know other than that. Unless there's obvious things like if there are any of them that are, incredibly dirty, those, you could put out to the side. Any of them that are like much smaller than the rest of them, you could go so far as to weighing each egg and throwing out the 20 smallest ones. As long as none of them are like double yolk, great big eggs. Those would be the only criteria that I would know to look for. I don't know of any other way to know which are going to be the best eggs. I don't know of any other way. Jay, yep, catfish would work well. Well, they would. Again, getting them to breed and getting them to produce young and getting the young to grow fast enough to make, a fish harvest viable. That would be the hard part with catfish. Bluegill is another option I've thought about. I don't see why bluegill wouldn't work. If you can get them to breed. Doug Yergin says they're 11.5 weeks and 9 of my females are laying just fine. Just the one isn't, and she's also the run. I wonder if it's a genetics issue and or like a disease issue or something with that one bird, and maybe that's why the male's not interested in her. I don't know. Hard to say. Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest too. Armed American is that may just be one that you call from the group and just remove it. And if it's the runt and you're having those problems with it, you don't want to pass those genetics on anyway. The Future Army Medic says, do you do this every Thursday night or is it just whenever you have time? Well, pretty much every Thursday night. I try every Thursday night, 7 o'clock Central. There are times when I'm out of the country on a business trip or something like that where I can't do it. But for the most part, I do every Thursday night, 7 o'clock Central. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, Doug. You said she's a pretty specimen. That's unfortunately, that's the difficulty sometimes. Sometimes the ones that, they look cool, they're nice looking birds or they're nice looking rabbits or whatever, but nothing else seems to line up. I know that's how it goes. Hidden Bunny says, why does ice float? Why does ice float? I guess this is a joke probably. You don't want a real answer to that, do you, Hidden Bunnies? Tell us, why does ice float? All right, EC4 Rabbitry. Hi, everyone. I don't know if you remember me from last time, but I just wanted to thank you again for your advice. Only one more has died since then, and now I have 5 healthy, happy baby rabbits. Well, EC4, I do remember, I don't remember the specifics of your situation, though. We have so many people come in with questions, it's hard for me to keep straight who is asking what. But I am very glad to hear that everybody was able to help you, that it worked out. You've got 5 healthy, happy rabbits, so good to hear. I'm glad. Thanks for coming back, too. All right. EC4, another question you've got here. Do baby rabbits usually get stains, or should I be cleaning the nest box out more often? It's not uncommon for baby rabbits to get like stained fur or something like that. But if it's a bad problem, yeah, you should probably be cleaning the nest box out a little bit. I usually don't have to clean it out that much. I mean, how old are your baby rabbits, I guess is the question, because usually by about, 2 weeks old, they're out of the nest box, and you can just take the nest box completely out. Don't even need it really. All right, Nick Walker says, hey, my silver fox doe gave birth to 7 and 3 were dead. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. She hasn't pulled fur or fed her kits at all. We are down to 1 and feeding by hand with goat's milk. Could it be due to the heat? It very well could be, Nick. Is she a proven doe? Has she given birth and taken care of them before? Or is it, is it maybe a first-time mom? Those would be the 2 issues that I would think about it. But it could be the heat for sure. You might give her till fall, try again, and see how she does. Hard to say exactly, but that's my best guess. All right, Doug Jurgen says, killing a male and female catfish is the solution. Take the pituitary gland from the female and inject another female with pituitary solution and harvest gonads from the male. All right, you're talking about getting catfish to breed? That seems like a lot of work. Injected female will release eggs and add the semen from the harvested gonads. The catfish progeny will continue with proper care. Interesting. I've never, I don't know. I've never thought about doing that. Who knows? Maybe someday I will get into that. All right. When I said like both, I meant both sides. Oh, that's right. Okay. Now, Hidden Buddies, I understand what you're going with. Yeah, both size eggs. Again, I don't know that I can answer that for you too much, but hopefully it works out pretty quick. Future Arming Meg says, so the other day, you gave me advice on my quail eggs, which are in incubation, and there was a temp spike. I'll give to try again. Where is a good place to buy fertile quail eggs? Okay. Excuse me. So I'm guessing that I kind of remember talking about a temp spike. We've talked about that with a few people. So again, it's hard for me to kind of remember who had what issue, but I'm guessing that they didn't hatch. I'm sorry to hear that. If that ruined your. Oh wait, were you the one that took it out, put it in your car, and it got up to like 120? Was that the one? Maybe that was it. If that's the case, man, I'm sorry to hear that. A good place to buy fertile eggs. Kansas City Quail Farms is got great supply. There's lots of places, honestly, but that's who I usually go with. And you can get pretty much any kind of color strain you want. They're James Murray Farm bloodlines, good bloodlines. I personally like the Jumbo Pharaoh. Those are my favorites. But yeah, they've got them. You can get them. All right, so, okay, here's the joke from Hidden Bunnies. Why does ice float? Because it's cool. I don't know if I get, does cool means you float? I guess, maybe. All right, Joanne, I'm confused. It says your solar light does good for the 14 owners a day. Okay, I think you're saying a solar light does good for 14 hours a day of light. You're saying that you add a solar light to get 14 hours a day of light for your quail. I use a solar light too, and give you guys an update. I'm actually working with a company right now to produce a light that I think, it's a solar light, and I think it's going to be the perfect, quail hutch, chicken coop light. Hopefully I'm going to have that soon. I'm probably going to have to run a, like a Kickstarter or something to get the startup costs covered, pre-sell the things. But I'll keep you guys updated on that as that becomes available. All right, so Nick Walker says, yes, she has 2 to 3 litters, just perfect up till now. Yeah, I would bet on it being the heat then. Might wait till it cools off a little and give her another try. All right, Samuel Beasley says, thanks for all the videos. If you're ever in Powell, Missouri, would love to visit. If you like fishing, I live right on the creek. I was down there just a couple of weeks ago. I was up on, I was on Little Sugar Creek. I wasn't quite to Powell. I was in Pineville. Little Sugar Creek, but yeah, I like Powell quite a bit. I used to go up there and camp quite a bit, a camp called Camp Tilden right there at Cyclone, and they've since changed ownership. Well, the lady that owned the camp, she got old, she died. Her kids took over and they kind of shut it down. They let some RV camping, I think, go on there, but no tent camping, so I kind of lost out on that. But yeah, that's Sugar Creek's one of my favorite places in the world. I love it. and I do like to fish. I fish every chance that I get. So yeah, I will have to hit you up and let you know next time I'm up in that area, and we'll maybe get out on the creek, throw a line in, and chat for a while. All right, Armed American says, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? A woodchuck could chuck lots of wood if a woodchuck could chuck wood. There we go. All right, Hidden Buddy says, I'm cool and I float in water. Well, okay, I guess that makes sense then. All right, Doug says, KC Quail Farm is where I got mine. I got the Associated Colors box. Assorted Colors box, that makes more sense. 0 eggs were Celadon, but I have 1 Celadon layer out of it and a decent variety of color options for my next generation. Very nice. Glad to hear it. Future Medic says, I appreciate how kind you are to everyone, Chris. You're such a good loving man. Oh, good God-loving man. I know you're tired. You're a busy guy, but you still spend time with us. I'm thankful for all you do. Well, don't give me too much credit, but thank you for the kind comments. I appreciate that. I try to be a nice person. I genuinely do like people, so it makes it a little bit easier. And I figure that I would, this is how I'd want to be treated. People come in, I say some of the stupidest things ever. I don't want people coming down on me when I do it. Not that you guys are saying stupid things. I don't mean it that way. But I genuinely like interacting with everybody on here. I like kind of just hanging out with you guys. So, yeah, it's the end of the day. I'm getting a little worn out. I came home, cooked dinner real quick, had dinner with my wife, and then I came right in here to do the live broadcast. So Thursday night's a little bit hectic, but not bad. If it was too rough, I wouldn't do it. And I appreciate you guys showing up every week to hang out with me. All right. Stacy says, hi, thanks for sharing your knowledge with us all. God bless. Well, thank you so much, Stacy. I appreciate that. And I'm just glad that you guys find my videos helpful and find my advice helpful. All right, Armed American, you have a good night, too. We will see you next week. It's probably about that time, isn't it? I got about 4 minutes left. All right. Take it easy. Yeah. Have a good night, Armed American. We'll see you next week. Samuel says, I live next to Creekside Campground. I usually float from the house down to Cyclone. Nice. So you're talking to Mike's Creekside. Is it still Mike's Creekside up there? That's where Mike's Creek flows in, right? Is that it? Yeah, it's Mike's Creek flows into Big Sugar Creek. Yep, right there by Bee Bluff. Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. Hidden Bunnies wants to know who lives in Panama that sells white quail. I don't know. I can't answer that one for you. All right, Bouvier Aaron. Bouvier Aaron? I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. Says, hi, I ended up with 4 chicks out of my first hatch and am 5 days till hatch number 2, and I'm having a great time watching your videos. Thank you so much. Hopefully those work out well for you, and you get some good results from that. I don't know how many you're trying to hatch, but it's an experience and it's fun. All right. Future Army Medic says, what should I do if my power goes out again while I'm incubating my quail eggs? Chances are it's not going to be out for a long time if it goes out again. So, maybe keep some blankets and things handy and just wrap it. Don't cover up the air holes on top completely. They need a little bit of ventilation. They need the air, but you can wrap it up with some blankets and let it sit. It's going to be fine. When a bird incubates eggs, they don't sit on them, 24 hours a day for 17 days straight. They get up and go to the bathroom and go eat and go drink and come back and sit on the eggs. So a little bit of a temperature drop for a temporary time is not going to be that big of a deal. I wouldn't worry about it. If you're extremely concerned about it, you can invest in an inverter and a deep cycle battery. I actually have one. Keep that battery charged up, and you can just hook that inverter up to it. If your power goes out, plug your incubator into it, and it'll run your incubator for quite a while. That's a good cheap alternative to a generator. All right. Dave Hogg says, hi, Chris. One of my New Zealand does killed her litter. She has had 2 successful litters before. I use enclosed nest boxes, and I may have gone to check on them too early. No, that's not likely, Dave, actually. It's very rare for a rabbit to kill her litter because of you messing with them. I handle them. The minute they're born, I've handled them before, and it's no problem. The rabbits don't have that they're not like hamsters and mice, which kind of tend to do that. That's probably not the problem. The reason that she killed them all, it's probably something else going on. It could be a dietary issue. It could be, if she has had 2 successful litters before, It could be any number of things, or it could be that they just died for whatever reason. She may not have necessarily killed them. I wouldn't worry about it too much unless it's a reoccurring thing in her mixed litter. It's just a one-off, whatever reason things were wrong. Summertime, it could have been so hot outside. I don't know where you live, so that could have been it. It could have been a number of things, but it probably wasn't you checking on them. The enclosed nest boxes, I kind of talked about this before. I really don't like it. I think it's a bad idea. They need ventilation. Moisture is the enemy, and when you close a nest box, it's going to get moisture in it, and that can be devastating to most animals. They need to have a good, dry, clean environment. So I would open it up, maybe put a piece of cage wire over it if you need to for some reason, but I would take the top off of it, open it up. That should help. Hopefully that helps, Dave. Hopefully it does. All right, Walter Camp says, thanks to everything. Have a good night. You have a good night too. Yeah, have a good night. Doug says, have a good night, Chris. I appreciate you letting us pick your brain. No problem. Thanks again for you guys coming in and joining. I appreciate it. Daryl says it's hot in Louisiana, so we give a bird ice water. Is it okay? Yeah, it's fine to give your birds ice water. I don't do it because it's just a lot of work. I mean, put ice out there and the ice just melts within an hour and a half. And you just can't, I can't keep that up all day. I got a job. I got to go to work. But yeah, that's fine. You can do that. All right. What time are we getting out here? 8 o'clock right on the dot. Okay. One more question I'm going to answer, and then I'm going to have to get out of here, guys. I'm sorry if I didn't get your question answered this time. You can come back and leave a comment on this video afterwards. I'll do my best to come back and answer that. All right. This is from Vine Hall. Any ideas for fixed splain legs is what you mean. I think in quail, I've tried to tie them together with a brace, but the bird then just lays on its sides for half the day. Yeah, I actually do have, let me see if I've got it here handy. Let me see what I can find. Here, this will work. All right, so here's what I've used is a piece of PVC pipe before. I think this is 1/2 inch. Or man, this is probably 3/4 inch. Whatever, it's probably a little bit bigger than this, but you just cut it off about as tall as what the bird is, and then you can set that and put the bird inside that piece of PVC, and they can't really get out. They're going to stay in there, and usually after about 6, 7, 8 hours, something like that, of sitting in there, they're usually okay to come out. And you're going to have to make sure they get food and they get water, but they're okay to go 7 or 8 hours without food or water. So that's something I've used before. I have seen. Hopefully that makes sense. You just cut a piece of PVC pipe. Maybe a pill bottle, a film canister, whatever, that's like a little tube like that. I would take the bottom of it out so you don't have a nasty mess, piling up in the bottom of it. But something that's about big enough around for the bird to get in, but not be able to lay down in. It has to stand up. And that seems to help quite a bit. I have seen other people build braces for their legs, like you said. I've had a difficult time getting that to work that way. And honestly speaking, most of the time with splayed legs, it's a hard thing to recover from. But I've had success doing it that way, so hopefully that helps out. All right, guys, hopefully I got that question answered for you. I see some other comments here. I got to quit looking at them because I have a hard time pulling myself away from it, but it is time. I got to get off here. I got to go spend some quality time with my wife, relax a little bit before I get up and do it all over again. But hey, tomorrow's Friday, last day for the week, and then we're on to the weekend. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining tonight. And we will see you guys next week. God bless. Good night.